But now, if you've been listening to our program the last few days, you're slowly becoming an expert on GamerGate. This is the online movement of video game creators and fans. It started over concerns about conflicts of interest in game journalism, but the movement has come under attack. Opponents say GamerGate has been overtaken by bullies who are threatening women.
People like Anita Sarkeesian and people that are fleeing their homes now because of GamerGate, these people are finding where they live, they're finding the names of their family members, and they're threatening them with very specific, detailed information, and it is terrifying. Whether or not you think they're going to follow through on it or not, it's terrifying to think that somebody would have that thought about harming you so severely, and these threats can be extremely graphic and disturbing just to read about anyone, let alone have it directed at yourself.
It's Genevieve LeBlanc, Ottawa gamer who writes for the website Nerd Reactor. We also spoke with game developer Eric McQuiggan. He says people who defend GamerGate targets also risk coming under attack.
I've talked to several of the people that have since quit games journalism and quit game development over GamerGate threats. And I remember when it first started happening, before even the GamerGate hashtag existed, when the initial attacks against Zoe Quinn happened, some of my friends who spoke out against GamerGate were subsequently attacked, and what happened to them is what's called doxing, which is basically their personal information as opposed to their internet persona. All their personal information, including their phone numbers, their banking information, their home addresses, is all made available publicly online, and then as if hands off, do with what you want with this information about these people.
In spite of these concerns, GamerGate as a movement continues online, and it does have some support in Ottawa, including from Mike Desjardins. He's an independent game developer. He's with me now in studio. Hi there.
Hi.
So you heard the discussion of GamerGate on Friday. What did you think of the way those panelists were characterizing it?
It's a pretty typical way of anti-GamerGates, how they express their feelings towards GamerGate. Everywhere online, that's what you hear. People who are anti the movement. I wasn't surprised at all from what I heard.
But, I mean, what they're talking about, the threats and so on, are out there.
Absolutely.
So that part, you're not saying that that's not accurate, that those things are happening.
There's definitely threats that are happening. However, there are threats that are happening from both sides. People are being doxxed on both sides. And the hardest thing to understand about this is that it's an anonymous movement where people still have their personal identities available. So somebody like me, I'm pro GamerGate. If I went online and threatened somebody, people are going to know who I am, and I am pro GamerGate. It doesn't stop anybody from anonymously making a Twitter account or anything and then saying, oh, hey, I'm pro GamerGate, and then attack somebody. So what GamerGate has done, the pro side, is gone out against harassment and against threats. We do not support this whatsoever. We've raised over $5,000 to prevent suicide. We've raised over $16,000 in bully prevention. So this is not a hate group whatsoever.
What is it that you support then about the movement? And I just want to clarify again, you're not supporting the bullying,
absolutely,
the harassment of the females who are out there as well. What is it about the original GamerGate idea that you are supportive of?
So it's about ethics in journalism, transparency in gaming journalism. That's what GamerGate is about. We want the people who are writing about this industry to uphold to the code of ethics. And if they're ever doing a review on a video game, let's say they give a game a 10 out of 10, and that's fine, great. If they're best friends with the game developer, that's a little unfair that they're giving that game a 10 out of 10. What we would like to see, if you do choose to give it a 10 out of 10, that's fine. But what we would like to see is transparency. So maybe at the top of the review say, oh, by the way, I'm best buds with the game developer, and I really like the game. This is my review. Then we would be okay with that. That's what we want.
What was it like for you then, seeing, this is sort of a twofold question, but beyond how it ended up being portrayed afterwards, but as you saw this shift happening online with that same hashtag that you originally respected, or I guess you still do, but the hashtag that originally meant something else, as the threat started to happen and so on, what was going through your mind?
it's such a difficult thing to explain to somebody who is not within the movement how everything went down. A lot of people who are on the opposite end will look at this and say, well, you were founded on hate, you started with hate, therefore you're still a hate movement. And I always fall back saying that's a genetic fallacy, using a fallacy of origin, saying you were founded on hate, therefore you're still hateful. And I mean, I just talked about the amount of money that we've raised for suicide prevention and bully prevention. It's not a hate movement at all. So when I go back and look at all of these threats and harassment and stuff like that, it's clear GamerGate, people who are pro, do not support that at all. And for some reason, we're still being told that we're this hate group. So it's been the craziest thing to watch unfold because I have no answer for it, because anybody can go on and say, I support GamerGate and I'm, going to murder your family or something like that. Therefore, all of GamerGate is now.
So this is what I was wondering. Why not just step away from that hashtag? Because, I mean, I think on Twitter, those discussions, and this could be a hashtag for anything. It could be, anybody could start participating in something and use a hashtag and slowly monopolize the conversation. But you could, in theory, say, okay, you know what? We're moving our transparency about journalism question over to another hashtag that has less of an image problem, and also less hurtful to people. We could start a new one. Why not?
So here's the thing. The GamerGate hashtag has a lot of momentum. And it has a lot of history. So if we're to just change the hashtag, what's going to happen, and this is an assumption, but it's a pretty safe assumption. What's going to happen is a lot of people are going to view us as those used to be the people that were a part of GamerGate. On top of that, it doesn't stop additional trolls and people who want to stir the pot from making an account and saying, I'm a part of this new movement, and then attacking people. So we're still back to square one. So what has happened to help prevent this narrative is there is another hashtag out there called Not Your Shield. And what this does is basically it's a defense for the anti-GamerGate side, who is saying that GamerGate is filled with a bunch of sexist white males. Not Your Shield is saying, absolutely not. I'm a female, or I am a minority, and I support GamerGate. So it's unfair for you to say all of GamerGate is sexist or whatever. So Not Your Shield is very important. It's kind of a sub-part of GamerGate.
Well, and I guess that's the question of how you ever know anybody's identity. But
right.
I understand the idea that it's a statement still being made.
Yes, and what these people do is they take a picture of themselves with things saying Not Your Shield, and you can clearly see it's a woman, a minority, and so on.
We heard from Eric McQuiggan a moment ago, a co-founder of Dirty Rectangle's Game Collective, and he told us the founders made it pretty clear at their last gathering they are anti-GamerGate. How did you feel about that?
I left. I am a regular at Dirty Rectangles. Those guys are the greatest guys ever. If it wasn't for Dirty Rectangles, I probably wouldn't continue making video games, and I would continue going. If anybody is listening who wants to be a game developer, look up Dirty Rectangles. Those guys are awesome.
But since there's a but coming, okay,
but,
yeah.
For that, when that was mentioned, I just felt uncomfortable personally because I didn't want to talk about it. That's it. I just didn't want to. I didn't feel like it was the place to talk about it. Much like you don't talk about politics and religions to your best friends and stuff like that because it could cause
Except
conflicts.
if it's an issue that's happening in your field, and this is something that Eric wanted to take a stand on, and he wanted to say, hey, we are against this, and we want people to know.
Because, unfortunately, I have been following this since before it was called GamerGate, and it was just about ethics and journalism. Unfortunately, what's happening now is you have two sides. People don't like to call them two sides, but there are two sides. There's the pro GamerGate, anti-GamerGate. Both sides are yelling past one another. So the anti side is saying this is what it's about. Pro side is saying this is what it's about. So I felt uncomfortable because I didn't want to have to stand up and say, whoa, hold on, why are you anti? And then it would just a huge argument of yelling past one another.
We just have a little over a minute left, but how do you then fix that? There are women who feel unsafe, and there seem to be issues that go well before somebody started posting the GamerGate hashtag that is part of that, the issues that need to be addressed. You still want issues in transparency and journalism in place. It's a very divisive thing that has caused a lot of people a lot of pain. How does this get fixed?
So here's the thing. If GamerGate was to die off today, let's just say we no longer talked about it, nothing will change. Games will still be made. People will still play games. Nothing will change. The only thing that's going to change is the people who are pro are no longer going to be talking about ethics and journalism, and that's it. So nothing will change. So what has to happen then is, and I agree that there are some issues with women in the industry. So if that is really truly a movement that people want to see be a thing, maybe start a movement on that rather than attacking GamerGate.
We're going to hold it there. Mike Desjardins, thanks very much for coming in. We appreciate your time. Mike is an independent video game developer. If you have thoughts on what he had to say, all in a day at cbc.ca. And if you missed the first part of this interview, it is up on cbc.ca/allinaday.